What's up, guys? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Okay, so we're gonna have a quick chat. I've been traveling over the last couple of days. I think it's been like 4 or 5 days since I made my last clip, or maybe it was 3 or 4 days. But either way, on it, I talked a little bit about enema and whether or not that was an eating disorder. I went in and looked up into it more, and it's a purging behavior, so it basically fits in with like bulimia and that kind of thing. And when I talk about that, I don't want to drop anything heavy on you guys, because to me, it hasn't seemed like a problem forever. Like, there's just certain abusive behaviors that I've been doing for a long time with my body that I never really thought about as being abusive behaviors, because you fall into the way things work sometimes, or just like a routine, and then before you know it, you're like, oh, I'm actually abusing my body. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced anything like this before. Well, I'm sure a lot of people have, but I don't know if you guys can relate to this in particular. But like, when I say like enema and like too much, what I don't think people understand is it becomes a compulsion at different points for a long time. If I'm just like, I just want to talk about it 100% the way it is. And I don't mean to be gross, and I know the whole subject is TMI because we're talking about enemas and that kind of stuff. But it's like when you're doing that for 30 or 45 minutes a day, more than once a day, probably like twice a day to be honest, and you just have this compulsion to completely flush out your system, and you do it to a point where your body puts up with it for a long time. But what really was the wake-up call as far as that went, and it had happened before, I don't know how I normalized this in my brain, but I bled a lot last week. And I'm not trying to be, like I said, gross or an overshare or dramatize or any, it's just what it was. It was a lot of blood. And it was where I was like, that's not good. And then I went to sleep and I forgot about it. And then I woke up the next day and started doing it again. And then there was more blood. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I had this problem last night. Which, how do you even forget that? But it's happened before. Like I said, it's not like it happens all the time. It just, and so like, you're like, what am I doing to my body? And the older you get, the more you have to start thinking about that stuff. So that's why I went ahead and like addressed it here, because I know there have to be other people that have done it like that. But at the same time, like, I don't really see anything to be ashamed about when you're learning about your body and maybe you did get into bad practices. Like, underfeeding myself was another thing. Like I said, I just got so used to being small that I never really thought about the fact that I could go big. And I guess I thought about it, but not really in a, like, it's something for other people, you know, like it probably wouldn't work for me. But if you have the same muscles as everybody else and like you're getting older, why not work with your metabolism and let your body do more what it wants to do, and maybe just be healthier that way, you know? So I've got my calories up because I was like between 12 and 1500 for a long time there, and closer to 12 to tell you the truth. And that part is just because sometimes I don't have time to eat, and I know I need to make time to eat. But even when I do my like make sure you eat every 2 hours, sometimes that'll stretch out to like 3 hours not eating, and at that point it's not like me not trying to eat, it's just I don't have time, or I don't have my food, and I don't want to eat a bunch of other stuff. And so my thing this last couple of days has just been get in your 2000 calories. However you have to do it, get in your 2000 calories. It's 2050 technically is the amount of calories that I'm supposed to get in to get to the weight that I want to in a safe, in a safe manner, and not just gorging myself. Today was cheat day, so I had 3000 calories. I have been counting everything up, and I've been paying attention to my macros as well. My macros are really off because I, for a long time, restricted my carbs to way less than you should have. It was probably about 40 grams. No, well, 60 at the most in a day, and that's not uncommon. Like when I was with my ex, I was just eating all the time, so I wasn't even thinking about it then. But like, you got to think, before him I was small, and then like a lot of my life I've been small like that, you know, just because that's where I liked being. But yeah, so for a long time, like 1200 to 1500 calories, which is less than you should have as a grown man. And so my thing has been just, if I can get, like, keep it at 2050 the way that I'm supposed to and continue to work out, then I'll be good, is the way I feel about it. And so I'll start figuring out my macros, but the most important thing has been to get in the calories and to not douche, enema, whatever you want to put it. So I've been successful on those, but I've also gone through runs in the past where I've been successful for doing it for like a week or even a week and a half or 2 weeks and then go right back to it. And this has been for years and years of my life. And I guess I probably shouldn't tell you guys that because people will judge or people will say stuff, but you know, I'm going to do a lot of these, not about this in particular, but about weight, body issues, my life in general, and people are going to have judgments, so I might as well just accept that now. So today, I was on planes all day, and then I wanted to go eat my friends that run Brunchies, which is Upstart here in Las Vegas. They're making really good food, my friends Bobby and Crystal, and I love them, and they're not paying me, and not even a free chicken. Like, I pay for my chicken just like everybody else because I want to support them. And it's not even just about wanting to support them. It's about the food's that good. Like, I've eaten at so many places that people have been like, you got to try this, you got to have it, you got to have it. And I'm always like, I could take it or leave it. But this is good. And chicken is right up my alley, and it's filet mignon. But today was a cheat day, and it was also, which I've always gorged on my cheat days, and also it was a travel day because I was in Kentucky for the Midwest Queer Comedy Festival over the weekend, which we'll talk about that at some point. Fun situation. I support what they're doing. I hope it continues to grow, and I'm sure that it will. But yeah, so I was out there in Kentucky for like less than 24 hours that I was in the city, I think, or maybe just over 24 hours that I was in the city. And yeah, so when I was flying back, I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on airline food, and I was like, let me just eat as much airline, airline snacks that I can have and hold myself over that way. And then I had some apple juice, and I held on to, and I know this is going to seem weird or whatever, but I just wanted to track my calories and see where I'm at because I feel like it's really important, especially in the beginning. Like back when I was doing the other way that I ate, which was low carb, there was a method to the madness. It wasn't all just like, I'm just going to starve myself. It was like I told you, 1,500 calories. That was like planned out the way those calories worked and the amount of protein, and I was good at that. But now to shift it and be talking about where I was used to, like 40 calories or 40 grams of carbohydrates, now it's like 200 and some grams of carbohydrates. And then like a lot of mine before was made up in protein because I did like Atkins South Beach hybrid because I had done both of those diets. Like I did the induction for both of them, or phase one is the way I think South Beach terms it. And they're very similar. South Beach just allows for a bit more like in the way of fruit, where Atkins, I remember when I first did it, was so stringent, and I only read the book once. I know they've made updates and kind of tweaked it a little bit, but like it's the way that I'm used to eating, is low carb. So now that I'm switching to more carbs, there's also that kind of playing in my head a little bit. And so brown rice I'm seeing is a good source. But anyway, I just went in and tracked everything. And there's a lot of sugar in these things. People wouldn't realize because they just think they're small little airline snacks. I had several though. And then and this is just the wrappers that I had because, I logged the other ones because it was a short flight. It was like a 45-minute flight. And it turned out to be that this is, this and everything else I ate today for cheat day with soda and donuts, and boy, did I go crazy, but it was good, was like 3,000 calories. Which is way over what I needed. And there was a lot of sugar in there. There was also a lot of sodium in there because, all of this is packaged. Like the healthiest things I ate was the stuff from Brunchies. And even that, is admittedly, I'm sure they don't care. It's like, it's comfort food. It's good food. So, there's maple syrup, or not maple syrup, brown sugar, and, and bacon, and it's so good. But my main thing was, it's cheat day, so I'm not going to worry about that. But those were the snacks I had. But now that I see, like calorie-wise, these will fool you because calorie-wise, they're really not that bad. It's when it comes to the sodium and the sugar and stuff like that that's in them that they're packed with. It's like, wow, that's actually a lot of sugar in there. And so I'll pay attention to my macros tonight and see what they are. Tomorrow I go back to regular eating and eating on a plan. The good thing about changing your diet is if you're a creature of habit like I am, once you figure out what works, then you kind of have calculations in your head, and then you can kind of of wing it a little bit more. I really like the way MyFitnessPal app is working out for this though, because it really does help me like keep on track. Because like if I had thought about it, I probably would have thought like, you know, I probably had just over 2,000 calories today. That's what I would have thought, just over 2,000 calories. And it turned out that I was just over 3,000 calories, which, you know, a lot of people eat like that daily and don't even realize it. Like you go to fast food a couple of days, you can easily rack up those calories. But because I'm used to eating less calories, it just seems so daunting. Even getting to 2,000 calories, it just seemed like it's a lot. And then I noticed that maybe Think Thin bars, which I've eaten for a long time, might not be the best for the way that I'm eating now because of the amount of sugar in them, which I'd never thought about. And it's not even sugar. It was fat. It's not sugar at all. It's fat. I hadn't realized how much fat was in them. Even when you do the actual research, which I know there's a difference between chicken breast, chicken thighs, chicken legs, but it's actually quite a big drop off, which I had never fully paid attention to. Like I said, I always knew chicken breasts were the best, but I didn't always know exactly why and what the big difference was in calories. And at some point, we'll go into that a little bit more. There's a lot of stuff that I did research on back when I started to eat this way, because it's, you know, like really watching what I eat and being in the calorie count, like I guess probably 10 years now of that part. You know, at least, because I did Atkins way back when I was first starting comedy. So, you know, yeah. So at least 10 years. And it's having to undo a lot of that stuff. And I'm down for the challenge, though. I'm just going to do it. It's not even about what I want to do. Even, like I said, with not abusing my body as far as enema. I guess that's why it was important to talk about that with you guys, even if it's a little embarrassing or maybe a little bit more vulnerable than you would want to be on YouTube. At the same time, it's important for me to acknowledge that that's what I'm doing to myself and get myself out of that behavior. And if the way that I have to hold myself accountable is by talking about it with you guys, then for me, that's a good trade-off when you consider my health. I mean, like, bleeding like that cannot be good for you. And like, you know, it takes a lot to make me like really take notice like that. And it was like, yeah, that's blood. So, you know, I'll continue to keep you guys posted. I didn't weigh myself today. I didn't weigh myself yesterday. I haven't weighed myself for a couple of days. That first day it said like a pound different, but my first weight measurement wasn't probably at the best time of day, and then the second time wasn't the most consistent with the first time. And you should ideally take your weight right after you first go number 2 in the morning. Like, that's supposed to be the best time to do your weight. So I'm going to start being more accurate about, or like being better about when I actually do that, so that I can get a better read and a more accurate read of what's going on. I don't plan to just let myself go or just start eating, you know. I don't feel like that's what I want to do. I've always liked working on my body, you know, like I just wasn't doing it the right way. And I think a lot of people like fall into these bad habits. And so if I can show people a little bit of like undoing that, we're going to talk about other stuff like regular, you know. It's just these two have been back to back that way because my health has been like, you know, it has to become a little bit more priority in my life. I can't be living like I was when I was younger, you know, like I've got to actually start watching, just like the way I've gotten organized lately. And I've always had to be organized, at least to a degree, because things just wouldn't work if they weren't, you know, to a degree. But there's always been some chaos. There's always been some, I mean, like, and that's something that I needed to work on. So I guess it was kind of like environment first, then body. Yeah, maybe this has been rambly, but I caught you guys up on my life, and you could be like, I gossiped with Ty Rivera. Got to hear him out. Like I said, Brunchies, Las Vegas. You guys gotta add Brunchies on Facebook. I'll put the link to their Facebook down below. And yeah, the food's so good. And like I said, they don't even pay me in free chicken. Like, I mean, like, I'm sure they would if I came to them on some hardship and with that, yeah, a little bit of that chicken, I'll suck your dick. But I'm sure I'd get some chicken that way, and I wouldn't have to suck dick, but I would make the offer, just like when somebody offers you $1 for a cigarette, even though they know you're not going to take their dollar, you're just going to give them the cigarette. In my case, I don't take the dollar or give them the cigarette, but that's just because I'm a bitch with boundaries. Anyway, This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world, at brunchies.